Hello everybody, this video today is going to be a longer video looking at the basics of Dele A1 level Spanish as a broad topic. I have currently been studying Spanish in my school and I've been studying it for around 2 years, and I'm currently at a B1 level. I would like to preface this video by saying that I am not a licensed professional, but I hope that by teaching people Spanish, I can also learn more about the language myself. I will also have more in-depth videos about smaller concepts within Spanish at this level, such as conjugation, pronunciation, spelling, etc. So today, these slides are from an online source that I will link at the bottom by Shreya Chopra. So as always, let's get ready to learn, and please subscribe if you're interested for more. So the first topic we're going to look at today is the alphabet in Spanish. So the alphabet in Spanish is quite similar to the one you might see in English, except for the tiny change that there are accents and there is a tilde, that's what we call the accents, and there is a diacritic mark on the N, which will give it the nye sound, but we'll look at that later. So in the alphabet, we will be learning about the letters of the Spanish alphabet, how to spell words, and how to pronounce letter sounds. So in the alphabet, you can see A, it's pronounced A, B, B, C, C, CH, che, D, de, E, F, F, G, I, H, H, I, E, J, J, K, K, L, L, M, M, N, 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 and this is the diacritic mark that we just talked about on top of the N. So here we would say nye, nye. So it's like a NIE in English where you have to really inflect at the top. So say it with me, nye. Then O, P, P, Q, Q. And this is where it starts to get difficult for some speakers. I found myself that, especially towards the end of the alphabet, it's not really similar to English in the sense that these letters are really easy and one-syllable sounding. So you really have to memorize how to say the letters by themselves here. R, R, S, S, T, T, U, U, V, UV, W, W, X, X, Y, Y, and Z, Zeta. So that's the end of the alphabet, and you can go back and check the video timestamps to look at the accurate pronunciation of these letters in Spanish. So now let's look at how will you spell a word. Let's say you have someone's name. Their name is Maria. The word is M-A-R-I-A in English, but in Spanish, you'd pronounce it like M-A-R-E-A. Maria. Then if you have the word niño, which means boy, tiny boy, niñito, so niño would be pronounced N-I-N-O in English, but then in Spanish, we would pronounce it as N-E-N-O. So now let's move on to the Spanish accents. As I mentioned earlier, these are called tildes. These Spanish accents, tildes, can only be written over the 5 vowels, A, E, I, O, U, A, E, I, O, U. And the accent is written from the lower left to the top right. So that would be A, I, O, U. In this case, it's more of a visual way to indicate where the accented syllable in the word is. For example, canto. The O is heavily stressed, and that is where we would put the accent. Canto means he or she sang. But then if you take the tilde off, it is just canto, which means I sing. So the tilde in O, you know that the stressed syllable is to, and that makes the word different from canto, which is song as well, where the stressed syllable is can, canto, canto, canto. So that's the difference between the two. Now let's take a look at the numbers. In Spanish, as you can see here, we have a table for 0 to 10 and the numbers in Spanish that correlate to that. 0 is cero, 1, uno, two, dos, three, tres, four, cuatro, five, cinco, six, seis, seven, siete, eight, ocho, nine, nueve, and 10, 10. Then let's move on to 11 to 20. From 11 to 15, you can memorize these because these are individual numbers that correspond to these words. 11, 11, 12 for 12, 13, 13, 14, 14, 15, 15. Then from 16 to 19, there's a special pattern that you will see later in the number system. 16 is like 10 plus 6. 10 represents 10, and then 6 already means 6. We talked about that earlier. So then from 16 to 19, you can just say 10, and then you add the number, which is at the units place. However, for 11 and 15, you can't really say 11 or 12 for 11 and 12. 11 to 15 have their own names for their numbers. Then 16 for 16, 17 for 17, 18 for 18, 19 for 19, and 20 for 20. Then this is where you really see the pattern starting to take form. From 21 to 29, they are 20, which is 20, with the unit number. 21 being 21, 22 being 22, etc. Then we move on to 30, which is 30. From 31 and onwards, the units place doesn't really have a merger with the word. Instead, what you will say is 31, meaning 30 and 1, with e meaning and. So then after that, you can continue that to 39, and then it will only be important for you to remember how to say the tens words. For example, 40 being 40, 50 being 50, 60 being 60, 70 being 70, 80 being 80, 90 being 90, and 100 being 100. Up to 100 is the level you will need to know at A1 level Spanish. Anything above that will fall into A2 or B1, but it is important that you understand how to phrase numbers and how to make sure you're able to speak about numbers in a sentence for A1 level. Then let's move on to some grammatical facts. So all Spanish nouns are either masculine or feminine. There is no neuter gender in the middle. Although there are a few that are relatively ambiguous that can work for either. That means that Spanish speakers are inconsistent in which language is applied to them. We are still going to have either male or female nouns. The significance of gender is that the adjectives and articles referring to nouns must be of the same gender of the nouns that they refer to. So things associated with females can be masculine. For example, un vestido, a dress. And things associated with males, for example, masculinity, can be feminine. For example, virilidad. The word for man and woman, hombre and mujer, respectively, are the gender you'd expect, male and female, as are the words for girl and boy, chica y chico. But it's important to remember that the gender of a noun attaches itself to the word rather than what it refers to. So persona, the word for person, is feminine regardless of who it refers to. And the word for baby, bebe, is always masculine. So the article for men is el, and the article for female is la. To translate this into English, you would think the boy is el niño, and the girl is la niña. In this case, el and la are these in Spanish. So let's move on to the articles, los artículos. This is the word that goes before the noun, like a, an, or the in English. Articles can be definite or indefinite, as we'll explain later, and depending on whether they're feminine or masculine, and singular or plural, that will define how we are able to use grammar to talk about these nouns. So let's first move on to the indefinite article. In English, we will use the indefinite article when we are talking about someone or something when specifying precisely which person or thing. For example, do you have a pen or any pen? In English, the indefinite article is always a or an, but in Spanish, the indefinite article has to agree with the gender of the noun that you're talking about. For example, un hombre, una donna, un coche, una casa. For the definite article, this is used when we are talking about a particular person or thing. For example, do you have the tickets? Like, we are talking about the tickets. The tickets for the theater show that we are going to go right now. The tickets to Sabrina Carpenter's concert. Chappell concert. In English, the same definite article is used with all nouns. It's the. But in Spanish, you use different definite articles depending on the gender. For example, the man is el hombre. The woman is la mujer. El coche, the car. La casa, the house. Then, let's move on to the neutral article. In Spanish, a neutral article is placed before an adjective when it is used as a noun. For example, lo raro es, the strange thing is. That is the main usage of the neutral article, but you don't really see it that much in A1 level. Now, let's move on to family, la familia. Mother is la madre, father is el padre, brother is el hermano, sister is la hermana, grandfather is el abuelo, grandmother is la abuela, uncle is el tío, auntie is la tía. So here's a fun trick about memorizing family. In most cases, they're going to be the same root word. For example, brother and sister both having herman. But then when it comes to the gender, brother being male, it will have hermano. Usually, the masculine parts end with a O, while the feminine parts end with a A. You can see this in uncle and auntie, el tío y la tía. Then la daughter is la hija, son, el hijo, cousins, los primos, father-in-law, el suegro, mother-in-law, la suegra. But these two are less common. Man, hombre, woman, mujer, amigo y amiga, friend, depending on their gender. Then, colors. Amarillo, yellow, blue, azul, red, rojo, pink, rosa, green, verde, orange, naranja, black, negro, brown, marrón. And this is an interesting part, because when you see two R's together in Spanish, you have to roll your tongues. It starts at the back of your mouth and you have to force that air out. This is something that you have to practice in Spanish, because there is a distinction between one R when it is not rolled, like and two R's when it is rolled, like r. Then white is blanco, gray is gris, and purple has two words, purpura or morado. Now, let's move on to the days of the week, or días de la semana. So Monday is lunes, Tuesday is martes, Wednesday is miércoles, Thursday is jueves, Friday is viernes, Saturday is sábado, and Sunday is domingo. Now, the months of the year, los meses del año. January, enero, February, febrero, March, marzo, April, abril, May, mayo, June, junio, July, julio, and that's the difference, one's a N, one's a L, julio, August, agosto, September, septiembre, October, octubre, November, noviembre, and December, diciembre. So, the seasons of the year, los estaciones del año. Spring is la primavera, summer is el verano, fall or autumn is el otoño, and winter is el invierno. Then feelings, sentimientos. Feliz, happy, triste, sad, enojado, angry, enfermo, sick, confundido, confused, aburrido, bored. Then greetings. Greetings are incredibly important in Spanish. You can read this slide and pause the video to understand in Latin America where it's incredibly important for people to greet other people, especially when they're your elders, and especially if they're in a group. Some common greetings or phrases: hola, buenos días, buenas tardes, buenas noches, lo siento, no, sí, te amo, hasta la vista, hasta pronto, hasta luego, de nada, bienvenido, gracias, ¿cómo estás? ¿Cómo está usted? Muy bien, muy mal, ¿Se puede? Adiós. Chao. Feliz cumpleaños. Feliz Navidad. Por favor. Now, let's take a look at some article-related sentences. Su mujer es una dentista. This means the woman is a dentist. So the reason you would put una instead of un is because the woman is feminine. So una is the correct thing to put. Él es un médico. He is a doctor. He is masculine, which is why we would use un and not una. Ella es una médico. Una because it is ella, meaning she or her. In this case, her is feminine, which means that we would use una and not un. So for masculine, we would put el for singular, los for plural, un for indefinite and singular, and unos for indefinite and plural. For feminine, la, las, una, and unas. So then here you have some questions that you can say, or los preguntas. ¿Quién? ¿Qué? ¿Dónde? ¿Cuándo? ¿Por qué? ¿Cómo? ¿Cuál? ¿Cuánto? And now let's move on to verbs, or verbos, which is one of the most complex areas of Spanish grammar, because most of the time it's memorization, but when it comes to conjugation, or applying verbs in sentences, that's the difficult part. So Spanish verbs are one of the more complex areas of Spanish grammar. Spanish has a moderate to high level of degree of inflection, which shows up a lot in Spanish verb conjugation. So there are three main tenses in Spanish: the past, the present, and the future, and we will create more videos about this, which you can check on my channel right now. And then you'll have singular or plural, and you'll have first, second, or third person. Then let's move on to the verbs based on person and numbers, with first, the first person. The first person refers to the speaker, I. So yo soy means I am. Nosotros or nosotras means somos, we are. We includes us, and nosotros means we. It would be considered first person because it includes the person who is talking, in this case, me. So if I wanted to say, let's go, let's including me, I would say, vamos. But if I only wanted to say, I go, that would be yo voy. Yo being I, and vamos, nosotros, vamos. The second person refers to the person who is being addressed, in this case, you. I'm talking to you, so I would use the second person when I'm asking you things. For example, tú eres, you are. Vos, vosotros, sos, you are. Generally, this is used in the same way as tú, but its use is restricted in some parts of the world, such as Hispanic America, where both tú and vos are both used. Then usted, es, you are. This is more formal and more singular, and this is used when addressing someone respectfully, someone that is older, someone that is not known to the speaker, or someone of social distance. Then in some parts of the world, you will use vuestra, but not a lot of places in Spanish require this, and in A1 level, this is not seen very often. Then we also have plural forms, vosotros, vosotras, sois, you all are. Familiar plural, and this is used when addressing people who are of close affinity, for example, members of the family, friends, children, and pets. But vosotras is only used when you are addressing a group composed entirely of females. If it is mixed, then you would tend to err on the side of vosotros, but vosotras is more limited in usage. We also have you ustedes, son, you all are. This is a formal plural where vosotros is used, but both familiar and formal plural elsewhere. This is usually used when this is strictly formal, when you are addressing someone really respectfully, or you are addressing someone of some distance. Then, in third person, you would have él, ella, ello, ellos, and ellas. In this case, él refers to he, ella refers to she, ello refers to, and ellos refers to they are, with ellas referring to the feminine gender. Then let's look at an example of the conjugation of verbs, and this is what we're really going to focus on in our separate series because conjugating verbs is really tricky. Sometimes there are verbs that are irregular, meaning that they don't fit the pattern for that specific tense. But let's look at the conjugation of the verbs ser and estar. So let's look at ser first. This means to be, and we'll explain the difference between ser and estar later. Ser, yo soy, tú eres, él, ella, usted es, nosotros somos, vosotros sois, ellos, ellas, ustedes son. For estar, which also means to be, in the present tense you would have yo estoy, tú estás, él está, nosotros estamos, vosotros estáis, and ellos están. So now, what exactly is the difference between ser and estar? So, ser is used to describe things that are permanent or often unchangeable. For example, I myself, if I was from India, I would say yo soy de India. I am from India. The form of ser used in the sentence is soy because you cannot change where you are from. Ser is also used to describe things such as characteristics, professions, religions, and nationalities. But estar is often used to describe things that are temporary. For example, the weather or the time. For example, I would say, yo estoy en Florida para las vacaciones. I am in Florida for vacation, but I'm not from Florida, but I'm just staying there for a temporary time. Estar is also used to describe emotions and locations because you will never be the same emotion forever or the same location at the same place forever. Some common verbs in Spanish you can try to memorize: ser, estar, tener, hacer, hablar, decir, ver, ir, comer, beber, poder, dar. Now, before we end this video, let's take a look at an example of an essay about the school. Mi escuela es muy grande. My school is very big. El nombre de mi escuela es St. Thomas Convent School. The name of my school is St. Thomas Convent School. Es una escuela muy bonita. It is a very pretty school. Hay clases desde la guardería a 12. Hay un grande patio y recreo también. Nuestra clase es muy grande. Our class is very big. Tenemos una grande biblioteca también. We also have a big library. Nuestra principal es la señor Anthony Matthew. Our principal is Mr. Anthony Matthew. Tenemos 100 profesores. We have 100 professors. Amo a mis escuela. I love my school. So that will be the end of all the slides that we have today. If you enjoyed this video or want me to make something more interesting or something about other languages, please let me know in the comments below. Please check out the channel and subscribe for any future videos about diving deeper into Spanish or any other language, or you can check out my shorts and playlists for content about linguistics. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video. Goodbye, thank you.